Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Maseches GITTEN DAF Yud Beis. We are holding 8 lines from the top of the Amud right at the 2 dots. So back to the Mishnah. A person took a get Isha and handed it to a shliach to deliver it to his wife. Or an owner of an Eved Knani handed a shtar shichrur, a release document, once again to a shliach to deliver it to his Eved. Before it reaches its intended recipient, can the owner go back on his word? Can he cancel this arrangement? So Rabbi Meir says, sure. You know why? Because that recipient never asked for this arrangement. So true, if it is to his gain, to his benefit, if it's a schus, then you can do it on his behalf. Zachen la'adam shaloi b'fanav, you can accept something on behalf of somebody if it's helping him, if he's gaining from it. But not if he's losing from it, and the Isha, and likewise the Eved lose out. For instance, on the financial, in the financial realm, they lose support, mezainos. They were being fed up until now by this husband, by this owner, and now they're losing their source of livelihood. Therefore, Meir says it's a chayiv. They're losing from it. Ve'ein chavan la'adam shaloi b'fanav. You can't do it without his consent. Chachamim say by get of Isha, granted. She's losing her parnasa, her source of livelihood, which the husband is committed to. Whereas by the Eved, not much loss is happening now. Why? Because if the owner opts to stop feeding his Eved, he can do so. He's not really losing much by going free. We're going to dwell on that distinction. The Isha loses, the Eved doesn't. If he wishes to stop feeding his Eved, he can do so. So basically going free isn't really giving up anything. Shamas Mina, we can perhaps conclude from this Mishnah a tremendous chidush when it comes to the master-slave relationship. An owner can turn to his Eved, Asay imin, keep on working for me, keep on producing, but I'm not feeding you. Go collect tzedakah and support yourself. Is that so? It's a big chiddush. It's a big discussion, a big machlokes. If it is indeed so, how strong is the owner's power? How much shiba does he have on that Eved? Is it tit for tat? You work for me, I support you. Or can he say, work for me, but I'll give you some time off to collect for yourself and look after yourself? It would seem from the Mishnah, the latter is true. Going free isn't much of a loss because in any case, his financial support isn't guaranteed. That's what the Chachamim tell Rabbi Meir. Is that so? Can he say it to this extent? Work for me, I'm not paying you anything? My Skinon says the Gemara, no, perhaps you can't do that. If he produces, you have to support. When the Mishnah indicates otherwise, we're speaking to Amar Leid, say ma'aseh yodecha limzenesecha. He offers the following arrangement. Take your own income and support yourself. The mas yodayim is for your mezainos. But for me to take your mas yodayim and just leave you to hang dry and have to look for your own parnasa, that I cannot do. Says the Gemara, okay. The Kavasoga be Isha. So what's the similar case by an Isha, where the Mishnah says you can't just cut off her livelihood? Are we speaking about this same type of arrangement? The Amrullah, he tells her, apply your own income for your livelihood. So by the Eved it works, by the Isha not? Why not? Isha, Amaylai, why can't he do the same with the Isha? It's sort of a reciprocal arrangement. You bring Masir Daim, I give you Mazainis, but we can cancel the deal. Take your Masir Daim and support yourself. Why can't he do that? Isha v'lo Safka, in the case of the Isha, was speaking that her income doesn't suffice for her provisions. So the husband can't just do that. because he's committed to supporting her. Well, Eved Nami B'Dloi Safek, in the Eved case as well. If it doesn't suffice for his needs, how can you do that? Eved is different. Avda, an Eved, the Nohoim, the bread, karsi of his stomach, basically, if he cannot produce as much as he eats, the Nohoim karsi, Lo Shavya, if he's not worth as much as he consumes, Lamare, Ulamarte, to his master and mistress, his owner and the missus, Lamai Mitbi, what's he good for? What do I need him for? If he's eating more than he produces. The bottom line is, they're not committed to that extra. And that explains the Mishnah. So question, can you turn to an Eved and say, Asayimi, work for me, I'm not supporting you. Perhaps you cannot do that. The Mishnah is speaking that he offers the following arrangement. Produce and use that for yourself, for your own income. And the Chiddush is, even if it doesn't really suffice, too bad. But Isha, you can't do that. You're committed to taking care of her and for her needs. So therefore, you can't just cut it off. And that's why the Mishnah says, at least the Chachamim hold as such, that letting an Eved go isn't much of a loss for the Eved, because the Eved is not really guaranteed in his parnasa from his adain, whereas an Isha is. So letting her go, divorcing her, is to her detriment, is a loss. Tashma, here comes another attempted raya to prove our point. Basically, the question is, can an adain tell an Eved, Asay imi ve'inizancha, or not? We have a brayso. Eved shegala la'arei miklat. So an Eved killed somebody inadvertently, and he runs to Gullahs, to the cities of refuge. So while he's out there, ein rabbi chayev lezoynai. The owner does not have to send him a check and support him. Not only that, whatever he earns and produces goes to his owner. That's a clear raya. We hear from this. Apparently the Adin can tell the Eved, produce, work for me, I'm not supporting you. No, we're speaking about the following case. The Amalai, that the owner turned to him and he said, look, let's make a fair deal. Say, apply your income to your mezainos. That's a fair deal, if that's the case. Why does the brayso say whatever the Eved earns goes to the owner? It should go to himself. We're speaking that the Eved earns more than he needs for his basic livelihood, and therefore that extra goes to the owner. We're speaking about extra pshita, of course. Why wouldn't it go to the owner? Why would the brayso have to explain this? Perhaps I would think otherwise. Since if he cannot produce, if for some reason he has a slow day and did not produce enough, the owner is not responsible because the owner already sort of disengaged from him. So perhaps even when he had a big extra, he earns a bit extra. Perhaps the owner should not take that away from him. Let him have it as a reserve, put into his savings account for a rainy day. Kamashwan, the Chiddush says no, the owner has a right to collect that extra income. Says the Gemara, now if we're speaking that the Eved is taking his income and applying it for his own mezainos, then why does the brayso have to discuss a case when Eved went to an ir miklat? Why is that pertinent to our discussion? Answers the Gemara, perhaps I would say. The pasuk, in describing the fellow going into Gullah, says he goes into Gullahs, v'nos al achas min ha'arim ha'el. He goes to one of those cities, v'chay, and that's where he lives. So perhaps, being that is in that unfortunate situation in a strange land, perhaps we have to give that extra bit of support, of encouragement, to make it easier for him. So even if he earns a bit extra, let him have it. Because it's kind of difficult for him to secure employment in this strange place, and if he's lucky enough to earn a bit more than he needs, let him hold on to it for a rainy day. Kamashwan, the Chiddush is no. He has no right to hold on to it, that belongs to his owner. Okay, so bottom line, we attempted to bring a raya, and we refuted the raya. He's not just sending the Eved on his own, give me what you earn and worry about yourself. No, it's a fair deal. Instead of giving me the income, keep the income for yourself, apply it for your basic needs, and that's a fair deal. Says the Gemara about the Tani Seifa. But if you take a look at the next part of that same brisa, which describes the husband-wife arrangement, Aval Isha Shagol Salori Miklat, but a wife who had to go to the Ir Miklat, Bala, Chayav Bimezanusel. In this case, the husband is responsible to look after her needs. Why? Apparently, we're not speaking that he instructed her to use her income for her expenses. Because if he did present it like that, why is the husband looking after her? Why is he responsible? And since we've just proven that this last part of the brisa discusses a case where he did not offer that arrangement, apparently the Reisha as well with the Eved is not speaking, where you offer that the Eved keep his own income. Says the Gemara, no, the entire brisa is speaking that he did offer that fair arrangement. Take your income and apply it for your mezainis. The reason why he can't do it with his wife, because we're speaking that her income does not suffice for her mezainis. And as we explained before, the husband is responsible regardless to fill her needs. Whereas the Reisha by the Eved, they don't care. Even if it's not enough for your mezainis, too bad. Like we said before, the Eved who can't produce as much as he needs is not worth much. So the owner is not responsible past that. But bottom line, we're speaking that the Adin is letting the Eved keep his income. And that's why he's not responsible for his mezainis. Says the Gemara, if you drop down to the third part of the brisa, which reads as follows. If the husband tells her, apply your income, your earnings, for your mezainis, keep your income and buy your mezainis, Rashai, then he can do that. That's a fair arrangement with his wife. Apparently the previous part of the brisa is speaking that he did not offer this fair arrangement. Inconsistent with our way of learning the brisa. No. Of course, the entire brisa is speaking about this type of arrangement. Take your earnings for your mezainis. But then the last part of the brisa is adding another new twist. When can he not do this to his wife? When her earnings don't suffice. But if it does suffice, if her earnings suffice for her needs, and he followed through by saying, take your earnings, your masiyodayim, and buy mezainis, Rashai, that's a fair deal, he could do that. Maspekes my lamemra. Well, her earnings suffice for her needs. When obviously, why can't he do that? Why even discuss that? Perhaps I would say it doesn't work when she's in the Ir Miklat. Perhaps I would say the pasuk in Tehillim says, "Kol kvuda bas melech pnima." A woman's honor and covet is as much as she's hidden pnima, and especially when she's in a strange city in the Ir Miklat, we don't perhaps expect her to make her rounds and sell her wares and offer her service. So in Mela, there would be a svara to say that the husband has to be extra careful, extra sensitive, and let her and continue supporting her. Kamashma, the Chiddush is no. You can tell her, take your earnings and use it for your mezainis. The bottom line, the brisa doesn't really prove anything with respect to our Shiloh. Can he tell his Eved, give me what you earn and go collect your tzedakah? We have no raya because this brisa is not speaking about that case. In this case, he told him, take your earnings and apply it for your own mezainis. Keep your earnings. That's a different story. That he can do. Even when it's not enough, it's not maspekes, as opposed to by the Isha, you can only do it if it's sufficient for her needs. Perhaps this question of whether an owner can tell an Eved, mi ve'eni zancha, or not, perhaps it's a machlekes tanoi. Leimo ketanoi. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Eimer, Yochai la'Eved, loima l'Rabbi. An Eved can turn to his owner, Bishnei Batzeris, in times of famine, Oipar, is saying, look, you have a choice, either support me, or let me go free. V'chacham Eimer, no, Harushus biad Rabbi, the owner can hold on to him. Ma'ila b'kamifli. Says the Gemara, apparently, this brisa discusses this very case that we're talking about. That the Eved is working and the owner is not supporting. The Mar Savar Yachid. Chachamim say that the owner has the right to do that. Umar Savar Ina Yachid. And Rabban Shimon Gamliel disagrees. He says, no, the owner can't do that. You can't ask for my earnings and not support me. Says the Gemara, V'tispera. Hi oipar neseni. Oyo itzini lecherus. If this price discusses our shaila, where the owner is asking for the earnings but not being mefarnesim, if that's the case, so when the Brisa describes the Eved's claim, the argument that he has against his owner, either support me or let me go. Why is he resorting to such drastic expressions? He should speak more simple, more basic. That's what he should say. Look, either support me or let me hold on to my income. That's what he should be saying. Well, that's the discussion, right? I'm giving you my earnings. Either support me or let me keep my earnings. Why is he alluding to going free? Another question. Why is the Brisa referred to a time of famine? It's a basic question that pertains to any situation. Can the master keep his earnings and not support him or not? Ella, rather, we're speaking about a unique case. The Amrli say, Masa Yodecha. Once again, we're not speaking at the other than so selfish. Give me everything you earn and run and fend for yourself. No. He says, you know what? Keep your earnings. That's the case. So what's the problem? Problem is, times of famine, food's expensive. His earnings don't suffice. They don't supply his needs. And that's the question. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Savar, he holds, the Eved has a claim. Look, either support me, give me what I need, or let me go. Because now I can't really collect so successfully from tzedakah. Only then, when I become a full-fledged Yisrael, right, an Eved who's released becomes a regular Yisrael. Release me so that people, will notice me, and have compassion on me. So the Eved has a right to do that. Typically, it's not an issue, but here it's times of famine. Things are super expensive. It's not fair that you're just forcing me to fend for myself without no recourse. Let me go and let me collect. For Rabbanon Savri, no. It's not a proper claim. Manda maracham abnei chari. Any yid who has rachmanas on a ben chayrin, Eved nami ruchimi maracham will have the same rachmanas on an Eved. Rashi says, Eved is a semi-Yisrael. He has chiyuvim like an isha, mitzvahs, and loisa say so. It's not a strong claim. It's not a taina. And the other can hold on to him, let him keep his earnings, and anything that's left, any additional needs, he'll go collect for himself. So once again, we're not speaking that is just abandoning him. I'm keeping your earnings and you fend for yourself. No, he's letting the Eved keep his earnings. Toshma. Here comes another raya to our shayla. We're going to try to prove from Rav that he can actually do that. Asay imi ve'eni zancha is legal. The Amarav ha'magdash day after. An owner decided whatever his Eved earns goes to Hegdish. So what happens now? We're speaking that the owner is not supporting the Eved. He's not feeding him. So how does the Eved get around? So the Eved goes and borrows, applies that for his needs, for his mezainis, and then when he earns something, he takes that earning upare and pays back the creditor. So bottom line, we see that the master can be magdish his Eved's earnings. The only way the Eved can keep his earnings is because he first borrowed, so that's sort of a shibud, and then he could take that and give it to the borrower, to take the earnings and give it to the creditor. And soon the Gemara will explain how that works, what happens to the hegdish. But bottom line, it seems from this brisa that it works. It really is hegdish. Says the Gemara, it's clear from this brisa that the hegdish of the owner works, even though he's not supporting his Eved. apparently you can tell the Eved, work for me, I'm not supporting you. Says the Gemara, Hochav Ma'askina was speaking b'malulim mezainis. He's supporting him. And that's why he has the power to be magdish his earnings, because the earnings belongs to the owner. So why is the Eved borrowing and eating? Well, what's the point? He has what he needs. La adafa, for the extra. The owner is giving him just bare minimum, he needs a little bit extra. So he borrows for that purpose. Says the Gemara, 1 second. So basically he's shortcutting Hegdish. Really, all his Masya Daim go to Hegdish, but now he's bypassing Hegdish. He's borrowing for the extra needs, for the Hadafa, which isn't his basic needs, and then he's taking his earnings and giving it to the creditor, and not to Hegdish. Hegdish. Hegdish should tell the Eved, stop. Until now, you were okay without the extra food. And going forward, you should be okay without the extra food. Basically, what right do you have to do this? The answer is Hegdish Gufe Nichale. Hegdish is happy, is satisfied that this Eved is eating extra and gaining in strength, and so that the Eved of Hegdish becomes more powerful and strong and energetic. So it's actually to the Hegdish's benefit that he takes this extra. So Hegdish is okay with that. But how does this work? Because whatever he earns is meant for Hegdish. How does he use it to pay back his loan? He earns and he pays back his loan. Every coin that he earns, every bit of money, goes straight to Hegdish. He works it out like this. Every little bit that he earns, less than a pruta worth, which is the minimum that is required for the Hegdish to be chal, to identify with, you need at least a pruta. So every time he earns just a little bit, less than a pruta, he gives it straight to the creditor, so he sort of bypasses Hegdish like that. Says the Gemara, we're going to prove in fact that this halacha, which was presented by Rav, is not speaking where the owner is abandoning the Eved. We're speaking that the owner is feeding the Eved. Dama Rav, because Rav himself tells us that if somebody is magdish the earnings of his Eved, the Eved is going to earn and going to eat that earning. Because if the Eved is not going to look after his own needs, man palachle, who's going to work for him? Right? The owner is not, so he can keep his own earnings. Okay? So now, it's clear from this brisa that the Hegdish is not going to be activated. The Hegdish is not going to be applied in this case. Whereas in not a brisa, it's halacha of Rav. And the previous halacha of Rav, the Hegdish is chal. We seem to have a contradiction. The only way to answer the contradiction is different circumstances. Here he's feeding him in the first case. In the second case, he's not feeding him. So the Eved has a right to keep his earnings. This works very well. If you say hach b'mala, the first halacha of Rav, where the Hegdish does work, is speaking where the owner is supporting him, so he has a right to his earnings. He can't just send the Eved off and abandon him. So we're speaking that he actually is supporting him, and therefore the Hegdish does work. And the second halacha Rav, where the Hegdish does not work, is speaking that the owner is not serving him, is not supporting him, and therefore the Eved has a right to keep his earnings sharper. You've worked it out perfectly. Eli, I'm not supposed to you're going to tell me. That the first halacha of Rav is speaking even when the owner is not being malul, not supporting, and you can tell the Eved, go, fend for yourself. And still you tell me that the Hegdish works. So then, in the second case of Rav, how can the Eved keep his earnings? Because if not for the Eved looking after himself, who's going to do that? Well, whoever wants should help him out. Basically, we're not responsible for that. The Adon can just abandon him. So why do we say the Eved keeps his earnings? It's a clear raya from here. The Adon cannot just abandon the Eved Shma. It's a raya. Tashma, here comes another raya to our discussion from Rabbi Yehuda, who's going to disagree with Rav. He holds that an Adon can tell the Eved, look after yourself, fend for yourself. Tashma Adon Rabbi Yehuda. Hakateh yad avda shel chaver. If a person removes the hand of his friend's slave, so we have all the the medical payments, noisen shivtei urafosel rabbi. So the medical payments and shivtei, the loss of wages, all that goes to the master of that eved. Voisay ha'eved nizem min tzedakah, and the eved will just have to collect from tzedakah for his own needs. Shmamino, it would appear from here, Yachol Rav Leimer le'eved asei imi bein izoncha. The fact that the Bryce is telling us that the eved has to go to tzedakah indicates to us that an owner can tell an eved, look, produce, earn, and I'm not supporting you. Right? The fact is the owner is getting all the all the payments, and he's not really supporting the eved. No, we're speaking b'malulei mezonos. The owner is supporting him. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say that the eved has to go to tzedakah if he has what he needs? The extra, his extra needs. Rashi says, because of his weakness, he has to add to his mezonos, add to his menu, and that the adain is not responsible for. If that's the case, that's all he's looking for. Nizain, why does it say he gets his mezonos? A term used to describe basic needs. Misparnis meboile. We should have used the word misparnis. Provisions, extra provisions. The fact that Rabbi Yehuda uses the word nizoy minat stok elav shmamino, it's a raya that he's not getting his basic needs from his adain as well. Shmamino yochel shmamino, it's a raya from here that the adain can just abandon the eved. I take the income, I take the earnings, and fend for yourself. So it seems to be a machlekes between Rav and Rabbi Yehuda. So let's just summarize this stuff. In the meantime, we have a question. Can a adain tell an eved, say imi, provide your earnings, I'm not supporting you. You go fend for yourself, go to tzedakah. Now, if he tells him, keep your earnings, that he certainly can do, even if it doesn't suffice for his needs. An eved who consumes more than he earns is not really worth much. By the isha, you cannot do that, because the husband is responsible. But if his earnings or her earnings suffice for her needs, then certainly it's not a problem. What about asei imi ve'ein izancha? We seem to have a machlokes. Rav says it doesn't work. Rabbi Yehuda says it does. Amar, let's go back to this halacha of Rabbi Yehuda. So you injure the eved, noisen shiftay, urevasel rabbi, all the payments go to the owner. Shiftay pshita, loss of wages, of course that goes to the owner. It's his loss when the eved is not producing. What's the point of mentioning that? Rifu also, it's drichlei, the chiddush is that even the medical payments go to the master. What do you mean? Rifu also didei. Those should go to the eved directly to the boy Yitzuiba. He has to heal himself with these funds. The cases. When he was injured, they made an estimate that he would need 5 days of medicine. And somebody took this real potent medicine, which is quite painful and has tsar, but that really accelerated the healing process. And 3 days later, he's all better. So now, we saved on the doctor bills, 2 days of doctor bills. Perhaps I would say, it's Sara Dedeyu. Perhaps the extra money goes to the eved because he had this painful experience. In order to accelerate the healing process. So perhaps that extra goes, the money saved, goes to the eved. The chiddush says no, it goes to the master, because, as Rashi says, it's like any other shavach, any other income produced by the eved, which belongs to the master. Okay, another quick review. We have the halacha in the Mishnah. We hand a get to a person delivered to the wife, or a get shikhr delivered to the eved. Before it reaches them, Rabbi Meir says it's their loss. It's chavan la'adam. You can't do it without their consent until it reaches them. It's not theirs. He can cancel the deal. Chachamim say, well, by the isha we agree, but not by the eved, because in any case, the eved's livelihood, the eved's parnasa is not really guaranteed. So leaving the master is not much of a loss. Then we went into the discussion exactly what type of case are we speaking about. Are the Chachamim alluding to the master actually abandoning him? Go fend for yourself and give me your earnings? Or perhaps it's just telling, look, keep your earnings for yourself. You weren't sure. We didn't have a clear eye from the Mishnah, but we came out that it's a machlekes between Rav and Rabbi Yehuda. All the best to you and Hatzlacha, Rabbi.